Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to take on a unique Penn Squidder. It's one that has an aftermarket high-speed conversion assembly on it, and this one isn't marked. I don't know who made this one, but they were popular in the 70s for increasing the reel turn speed on the crank, and I think a squidder used to be around 3 to 1. And from my casual observation, just turning and counting the rotations of the spool, this one takes it up over 6, maybe to 7. They were kind of popular in the 60s and the 70s. Here's a different one. This was made by Real Deal from Southgate, California. But they serve the same purpose. There's a reduction gear assembly inside of these. This connects with the core drive on the reel, and it results in changing the gearing externally rather than changing the gearing internally. But this was brought to me because the fellow said, I got all kinds of dirt, it's time to be tuned up, and this thing scares the heck out of me in terms of taking it apart and putting it back together. So we're going to go ahead and service the reel, and to do so, the first thing you do is you're going to take that handle off. Now this one has got a lot of rust on it, which says it wasn't made with stainless. But I've played with this before because I had to find the right wrench, and this I was able to free this nut up, and we'll take this nut off here right now. And that's a compression nut. It's got the polyurethane lining inside of it so that it doesn't rust on. And the difference with this one, with these conversion kits, is that you have to drill the side plate to put the mounting post in, and we'll see that here. But you'll also see the inside. So you risk, from time to time, snapping that side plate if you were to install this conversion kit. But you can see on the back two different approaches here. One would bolt the 3 into the side plate. The other one has a single one. The internals are pretty much the same. So all I do on these, I'm not messing around with taking this thing apart. I'm just simply going to put a little bit of oil in there. It's only a couple of gears that are driving this thing to increase the speed on that. And that's what I'm going to do with that handle there. The old proverb, if it isn't broke, don't fix it, right? But we do have to service the gears, we do have to clean this up, and that's what the customer asked me to do. The rest of the body is a Penn Squidder. So this is an older version, and again, those conversions are pretty old too. We'll start by removing the one-piece screw from the side plate. There's a little bit of a turn going on there, and we can see that we've got a lot of varnished dried grease. And again, the fellow was up front and honest with me. He said, look, I don't even want to mess with this. And you can see where that post was drilled into to set that post. So there's a screw here if we needed to take that post off. Again, we're not going to mess with that at all. I'm just going to go on the back side of this one just to make sure we're okay. The Squidder, as many of you know, is an upgrade off of the 155 Beachmaster, and it comes with bearings. So this has a bearing on both sides. We're just going to oil it. I use a Real X oil to do that, and just a healthy dose there is fine. Check the spool to make sure that it's free of contaminants, which it is. And we're just going to go ahead and put that back in. I'm going to set that aside in my parts tray. I keep a parts tray for all my small pieces and parts, just so that I don't lose them, and so that I know where to find them when I go to reinstall. The rest of this is going to be fairly generic in terms of servicing a Penn Squidder. So if you have one, you can play along. You don't have to worry that that there's something different there from a leveraged handle or not. And this has just got some junk on the inside here where we adjust the drag tolerances. I'm just going to clean that off. And then we're going to remove the 4 side plate screws. You'll notice I'm wearing a protective glove on my hand. I do that to keep the greases and contaminants off of this. And I'm going to loosen those 4 side plate screws right now. Now there's 2 different screws here. There's a screw up top and a screw below. The up top screws are partially threaded. The screws below are fully threaded. And when you go to reinstall, make sure you have it that way. The reason for the partial threaded screws up top is that there's springs that ride on those. And that's why I cut my hand, because as I remove the side plate, I don't want the springs shooting anywhere. This also has a feature on it that's common to the Squidders and the Mariner reels, It has an anti-reverse override in it. If you toggle this switch, you can backpedal the reel by taking off the anti-reverse dog. I'll show you how that works on reassembly. So right now we're going to push the bridge through. We're going to grab that. Here's the dog for the anti-reverse. I'm just going to grab a paper towel here and get some of the crud off of it. The dog is a little bit different than most Penn dogs in that the spring lodges in an indentation inside that dog. So you can see the spring that's going to trigger that. Hopefully you can see the spring that's going to trigger that. Let's see if we can do it that way. That comes in and out of this little hole in the side. You can probably see the spring better that way. Just make sure that when you go to reinstall, that spring is inserted properly. So I'm going to put it back in so I don't lose it. And having a little bit of problem with that, but that's my life. I apologize for the delay here. Many of you know I have problems with small pieces and parts. This is that time in the video where you say to yourself, I probably shouldn't have taken that out to show you, but I wanted to show you anyway. Okay, so that's the way that this spring seats. All right, I put that in my parts bucket. This is common main gear. It has the ferrule, it has the shim, and then it has the drag washer set. And the drag washer set on these is the same as the Penn 60, the Long Beach, and these are toast. So I'm going to go replace these. While I'm at it, I'm going to clean up this the bridge assembly because it's got a lot of junk on it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a paper towel to wipe off the grease that's accumulated there. And again, the fellow was up front. He said it hasn't been serviced in quite some time. And he was, like you mentioned, he was afraid to open it up with the high-speed handle assembly on there. He was going to crack something. So got a little bit of varnishing on there. I'm going to hit it with a WD-40, which is a general degreaser. And that most of the time will help free up the varnishing and some of the other pieces. If it gets a little too difficult, you could always grab a scrubby pad. That'll give you a little bit of abrasion. You could also use some 4-0 steel wool, a little bit more aggressive, and clean it up as we just did there. So I'm going to go ahead and put that shim back on. Actually, we can see if we can pull this gear sleeve off as well while we're at it. We might as well show you the whole piece. So the gear sleeve is held on by a little through pin. That's what I just poked out with a little awl. Grab that with the pliers once you poke that out. I've got it laying on the table there. I'm going to go ahead and pull that sleeve off. In this case, this is very clean. I wanted to just make sure it was. Go ahead and pull that piece back. I'm just going to take the contaminants off of that. And we'll go from there. We'll just put a little bit of blue grease on the shaft. I use a Penn precision reel grease for my movable parts in the reel. And that's appropriate here. And then once you put that in, you can just grab that pin again. There's a hole here again that you knock that out of. So you want to go reseat that. And again, me with small pieces and parts. Sometimes they're a little bit easier than others. I'm just going to knock that back in with a non-marring hammer. Okay, once we've lubed that up, go ahead and put the shim washer back on. Oh, that's telling me I don't have that completely seated right there, so I'm just going to grab a screwdriver here to knock it just a little bit more. And if this is off camera, I do apologize. I'll get it correct. Okay, and the main gear goes on. Yep, I'm still having trouble with that little pin. And the problem with this little pin is that it's rolling. Not a rolling pin. That doesn't mean to be a pun there, but it's rolling as you go to about it. All right, I'm going to go grab some drags. As I mentioned, these take the Model 60 drags. And I have those if you need to order those. Those are available at pennparts.com, which is now mysticparts.com. And they do a great job of servicing the drags that or providing the pieces and parts for any pen reel. Okay, I put some grease on the drag there. Now people have asked me, can you use a general reel grease? Yeah, you can. It's not as lasting as a Cal's universal grease, but it will serve. It just means that you have to go back and redo the grease more often. The purpose of reel grease is to have the drags remain flexible. That's it. So you know, whatever you can do to keep the flexibility there, go ahead and do that. And as you can see, we're pretty close to done here. I use this glove here to keep this stuff off my hands, but I also use it like that to rub in the grease, so make sure that there's an even distribution of it on the drag washers. Okay, so that just rebuilt the bridge there. I'm going to tighten that one back up. We'll come over to the top end of the assembly then, and we're going to pull this off. This is the jack, the yoke, and the spool gear. And we got some junk inside again. They were right. This wheel hasn't been serviced in a while, so it needed the drags. It's been shellacked here in terms of a lot of dried grease, and it's a good time to have it serviced. So a lot of folks ask me, you know, what's the ideal time or how long between servicing? And my recommendation is once a year. Again, that assumes you're fishing the reel, but you should do it either at the end of the season or the beginning of the following season. I like to do it at the end of the season. That way it's properly lubed before it goes into storage. But if you fish heavily, if this is your daily driver, I would say do it in the middle of the season as well. As you can tell from the length of these videos, it doesn't take that long to do this. So better spend the 15 or 20 minutes just servicing your reel and not worrying about the consequences of having something break because it went without lube too long. Just checking the gear now, making sure that the spool gear has all its teeth. I'm going to go ahead and put that back on the yoke. Notice that there's two sides on the spool gear. One has an indentation. The indentation faces out. Over here, those are the two springs I was talking about with the side plate screws. The yoke sits on top of those. Let's see if we can get you a little bit of an up close and personal look at that. There's springs behind the yoke now. And then we're just going to grab the jack. That slips over the free spool release and lands on top of the yoke, just like that. And now we're going to go reinstall the bridge and the anti-reverse gear. So the bridge goes in first and is turned halfway so that it's sitting on top of the spool. And we're going to go grab that dog I was showing you before. And there's a little stud here that the spring is going to sit on. So we take the anti-reverse dog, we slip it behind the bridge so that it can engage with the teeth. And then you can see the stud there. Hopefully you can see the stud there. So now we have the anti-reverse dog is sitting on the teeth behind the main gear on the pin gear sleeve. We're over the bridge screw on the bottom. We've got the spring that I showed you coming out is sitting on a stud on the side plate here. And this little toggle here, this silver, is the one that turns the anti-reverse gear on and off so that you can backpedal. And I'll show you the operation of that once we lock this up. Okay, so when I get that loaded properly, we continue. We just rotate the bridge the rest of the way. till we line up that screw with the hole, and then we tighten this first screw down just enough to have it grab. You don't want to tighten it all the way because the spool gear does, the bridge plate does float a little bit, and you want to make sure that you have the screws lined in with the other holes before locking it all the way down. So I do an X pattern. I do one up, one down, one up, one down kind of a thing. These are the partially threaded screws, and those go up top. And you can see the fully threaded screw, that one goes below. And so I've done the bottom and the top. I'm going to go bottom on this side until it catches, and then I'm going to come back up top here, make sure this one catches. And once it does, I can tighten them all down. So I'm going to reverse that pattern now. Tighten that one down, tighten this one down, tighten the top down, tighten the bottom on the other side now. And we can put the furrow back on. We can put the star drag back on. And then this is, so that's all normal in terms of a squidder. We're going to go ahead and mount this then. We'll put a little bit of grease onto that spool shaft. And we can load this on. And again, this portion of the rebuild is identical to any other Penn Squidder out there. And then the difference is we're just going to put that leveraged handle on now. But before I do, I just want to make sure that it's running the way it should be running. Here's the anti-reverse tog. Right now it's in place. If you flip this switch, you can backpedal the reel, which enables you to fight a fish without using the drags. Okay, so now we're going to put that high-speed lever on, and all this does is this lines up with the handle. Kind of have to turn it a little bit to get it to seat properly. I'll go grab the washer and the nut. And now I have a squidder that's been properly serviced, and I have a high-speed retrieve on it, so that it's probably going to operate at 6 or 7 to 1 turn, which is way fast. But if you're fishing a species out there that needs a fast retrieve for the lures, this is the reel to use. And it was, again, it's a technology from the 60s and the 70s in terms of these external ones. I showed you the real deal before. Again, I don't know who manufactured this, but it's quite the reel. It's quite the reel. So there we are. And you can just see how fast that spool is spinning. Okay, so I hope that's helped. I hope that showed you a little curiosity that is part of the Penn lineup, what some of the aftermarket folks have done long before Tiburon frames and things like that. And that's how you go about servicing that reel. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.